Welcome to M&G Investments podcast Dream Machine with me, Alex Matcham, and my colleague Laura Brown.
Hello.
Each episode, we're going to speak to one of our investment professionals to try to get to know the people behind the portfolios.
That's right. We're going to be asking our investment expert to choose from our virtual vending machine their favourite drink, crisps, and chocolate bar or sweets, as well as a few other questions to try and get to know them just a little bit better.
Sorting the junk bonds from the junk food.
And we should say at this point, this is not a promotion for any of the items discussed. There is a whole world of snacks out there.
That's right. None of the content of Dream Machine should be considered as financial advice, nor should it be considered nutritional advice. If anyone is unsure, they should speak to a financial advisor or a nutritionist. So,
with the disclaimers well and truly out of the way, let's begin. Today we're joined by Fabiana Fedeli, who's the CIO of Equities, Multi-Asset and Sustainability at M&G Investments. Fabiana's been at M&G since 2021 and runs, obviously, the team of fund managers across the equities and multi-asset businesses. Fabiana, welcome to Dream Machine.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
So Fabiana, you've been on prestigious news channels and media outlets out of the world. Have you ever been asked to present your dream vending machine items?
I have never, and I am so excited.
We like to set a precedent.
Excellent. There we go. Well, I'm
Don't
glad
we
that
really?
we're breaking new ground.
Before we start with the sort of piece proper, should we maybe go back to the beginning of your career and kind of your sort of choice to go into investments? What drew you to the world of?
It was a bit by chance. I ended up in a finance course at university, really purely by chance. I think I read the course requirements wrong and ended up never having studied maths before in a course that was very heavily quantitative. And I just figured out, I will just do it. I'm here now. And eventually I decided that I liked it so much that I wanted to pursue an academic career in econometrics. So went to Japan for a master's and a PhD. And at some point in the middle of that journey, I thought I'd like to try something different. And there were some possibilities in finance on the risk and on the equity research side. And I picked an equity research job, not really knowing what it was about. That's how I started.
Interesting.
And it's been a truly global journey for you, hasn't it? You mentioned there Tokyo, but you've worked all over the globe.
I worked in Tokyo, in London, in New York, and also in the Netherlands. Yes.
And has that been a conscious effort?
Work has often moved me to other countries. So I'm not really sure if they wanted to get rid of me and they just would send me somewhere else. But I would often be moved, for example, from Tokyo, I was moved to New York because they wanted me to work closer with the team on Wall Street. And then I stayed in New York for a very long time. And yes, there's a big part of me being curious. And I always wanted to learn about different markets. So I wasn't really sure what the end game was in terms of career, but what I knew was that I really wanted to understand how different investors in different countries thought about investing. And so whenever I would get an opportunity to go somewhere else, I would just say, yes, why not? And that was the start of a very long journey.
And in terms of the 2021, as Laura mentioned, coming to M&G, what interested you in M&G Investments and brought you into the company? What was it that attracted you to the business?
So M&G is a fantastic brand and has a lot of history, but had gone through some difficult times at the time I joined, particularly in the equities and also in the multi-asset business. And, the more I met my future colleagues here, the more I thought there's some amazing people. There's a fantastic culture. We just have to make sure we get things to work, but they can work incredibly well. And it did. So we're now all part of a team that I think should be very happy of the accomplishments we have had. And, we look forward to having more of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we
celebrate with your...
conscious we have your first thing, and it might be getting a bit cold. So we start with your
Dream drink.
dream drink, please, Fabiana. If you could describe what we have here, that would be amazing.
I know what we have here because I have one every morning when I come in.
So this is an oat latte, is that right?
Yes.
But
Oat
with a
milk
very
latte.
specific milk as well, is that right?
Yes. Can I say the brand?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you can say the
We
brand.
brand away.
Oatly Barista.
Okay.
And can
And,
you,
and how does that differ from other?
It's creamier,
Okay,
makes a little bit of froth,
that's
like
nice.
really soft one. Yeah, I just like it. Actually, I have one of these ones before I leave my house every morning, and then I have a second one when I come to the office. And that is it.
And that's the
My
end of the
friend, right?
caffeine journey
Well,
for the day, is it?
I'm
Or-
Italian, so I also need my espresso macchiato after
okay,
lunch.
to the end of the.
But that is it.
Got it.
I have to be disciplined.
Right.
you talked there about the multifaceted nature of the career that you've had. And I guess it's been an interesting time from a kind of an investment point of view, in markets generally. Do you kind of reflect on any particular era and how that shaped you as an investor and now as a leader, that you look at, moments in the market or periods where you just go, that was so formative?
Well, the .com crash was probably the first big downturn that I experienced. I was an analyst at the time, and I was actually working between Tokyo and New York. So I saw many of my companies like just drop by 50%, 70% in one country, and then do the same in the other country. And some of my stocks don't even exist anymore. And that made me realize that it can happen. So it was really useful in 2008 when some of my colleagues, by that time I had become a portfolio manager, and some of my colleagues were saying, well, the market is down 10, 15, 20, can't get any worse. And I was saying, no, it can. I've seen it in multiple places. But then markets have also a way to rebound. And that's the other lesson, right? If you panic, if you come out too quickly, if you're uninvested at the time when the market eventually will rebound, because it has a way to recover, then that is an even bigger problem for your portfolio.
And then how do you kind of then now, do you see that as a big part of your role now in terms of sort of almost mentoring and running investors in your teams, to sort of have to sometimes, I guess, remind them of these sort of factors?
Yes, there are actually two aspects to it. One is reminding your teams of the mistakes that you have made in your career. So I actually held a class, and the title of my class was Learning from Mistakes, where I displayed all the mistakes that I had made in my career. And I had charts, and, I could pinpoint the exact moment when something went wrong and why. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was a very cathartic moment for me. But hopefully my team has also learned from my own mistakes, so they don't have to make as many. But yeah, that is, that is part of your journey.
One of the things we talked about with some of the managers here is that point at which you might be making contrarian decisions. That's what you're being asked to do a lot of the time, but also that can feel very lonely on occasion when things aren't always going your way. So obviously in your role, you're sort of creating that environment of support and difference. How do you sort of manage that kind of when things are more challenging?
I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't have an incredible team with me. And actually, one thing that I was about to explain earlier, and I failed to finish my thought, is, when you're thinking about your team and how to help them managing the assets of our clients, it's also important how that team is populated. There has to be diversity. By diversity, of course, of gender, of course, of culture, but also of age. So older, more jaded investors, such as myself, will think in a certain way. Younger investors will think differently. And as long as you have a team where dialogue is truly thought as important, and there is a pretty flat hierarchy, then you can really see how diversity, also generational diversity, helps in that, in that moment when the market is being non-kind to you, and you have to be resilient.
Brilliant. Should we, I think, move to our next item, which is a rather enormous bag, actually.
My goodness.
But your crisp selection, Fabiana.
Oh, I love these.
So these are Tyrrell's
Veggie crisps. Yes.
Yeah. Should we open one of the bags?
Yes.
Or I
Yes.
just go for it?
That's a good idea.
I'll make all the noise. And then pop them in the little waft of beetroot.
Yeah.
My favorites are the red ones.
Yeah, I like those.
The red
as
one's
well.
the favourite. Beetroot's the best.
Yeah, I think so, actually. I like all of them, but the
They're a little bit
beetroot are really
sweeter.
There's a lot of parsnip.
There's a lot of
I'm
parsnip
going to have a
kicking around.
parsnip. Just
I'd
take
say-
one for the team.
I'd say parsnip is the weakest of the three.
This is a heated
beetroot.
debate along the lines of which is
it's
the best
also very
colour
good.
jelly baby.
I really enjoy them. There's a bit of saltiness and sweetness to them.
How good are they for you?
Oh, definitely not good.
You don't think they're good?
But
In the
They're
Dream
vegetables.
Machine, they're good, right? Because the Dream Machine can do anything. You
'Cause
know,
that-
takes away all the
Whilst
bad.
delicious, it tastes quite healthy as well.
you see, here I always listen to the advice that my grandmother used to give me. Lasagna, for example, it's good for you, makes you happy. That is healthy. Lasagna is healthy. So, veg crisps
Make you
are healthy.
There you go. I like that.
Right?
It makes you feel good, so it's good for you, but
Yes.
probably not every day.
Possibly.
If you ate lasagna 3 times a day
Well, that would be.
for life,
Yeah, but then you wouldn't like it as much anymore, right?
yeah,
There's
so it's
something about having it as a
self-balancing.
treat.
Yeah.
It's kind of self-balancing. I like that.
Yeah.
This is the
So you sound
universe,
like
actually.
quite disciplined then, Fabiana, in your approach to snacks and food in a way that I do not have.
Nor do I.
So my husband makes fun of me because if there is something that I really like, I'll put it in the cupboard. And then by time to time, I will go to the cupboard. I will take a little piece and I'll eat it. And then I'll close the cupboard. I will leave. And then I come back. And I could be coming back after a week. And by the end of that week, whatever was in the cupboard used to disappear because my husband would find it and say, "Why is this still in the cupboard?" and just take it away and eat it. So now I have little Post-its. Do not touch.
I see.
And then whatever is in there will last for a very long time.
I like that. So you're an occasional snacker.
Yes.
And you're able to kind of have like a little piece rather
Yes,
than
but
the
with
full.
purpose.
Okay, excellent. That was...
So you,
There's probably a metaphor we can tie in to investment somehow.
yeah,
there.
no,
Can we
something-
crowhorn that one in?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Is there something about like the time value of money and just sort of leaving your holdings to perform, right? This is our time in the market.
By the way, that is one of the most common mistakes.
Yeah.
Not respecting or not understanding the time value of money. When you are in an investment for far too long, an investment that doesn't perform, and then, after the investment has basically languished for a very long period of time, eventually it performs. And, everybody's happy. Fantastic. Wasn't this a great investment? No. Can you imagine what you would have done, the opportunity cost of having that money there for that very long time?
That's interesting because that is a long-term investors, and having grown up in this company around very long-term investor thinking, that's an important thing to consider, is the opportunity cost of that money. Because you could look at it, well, if you had it in a cash deposit account, you would have got this. But I've never heard that. So is that something you think about as part of the challenge to your fund managers as well?
I am a big fan of long-term investing. I think some of the best investments actually are investments where you put in patient capital. And I do believe you can make a real difference. But there is a difference between keeping money there for a very, very long time, doing absolutely nothing, or actually underperforming, and perhaps taking a little bit of underperformance, maybe making sure that your drawdown risk is still limited. And also you have to, there is long term and there is long term.
Yeah.
Always. And in your sort of role, sort of think about our clients who are sort of thinking about.
I can keep on.
Yeah,
keep on
please,
thinking.
no, absolutely.
please do,
We definitely will. The clients who are thinking about how to choose a fund manager and think about that, and obviously when you're in your role, you're thinking about how to think about your team and what makes a good fund manager. I mean, how do you think about that question?
Self-awareness is probably the key trait of exceptional fund managers. Right. You can tell when you speak to someone who's still young in their investment career, and as a fund manager can be also a research analyst, when they tell you about, for example, a position that did not do well, there was nothing else I could have done. That is an alarm bell. Right. Trying to understand what went wrong, trying to figure out what you could have done differently. I mean, ultimately, you could have not bought a stock or a security. That is something that exceptional investors do.
And your role is global in nature, so there must be a huge amount of kind of challenges with that. How do you turn off? How do you turn off from data, or do you not turn off? Do you find it very difficult to turn off?
I don't turn off very easily.
Okay.
Also because what I do is what I love.
Yeah,
and
fine.
If I wasn't working in finance, that would be my hobby.
Yeah.
Okay,
However, I really enjoy sports, and so that is my, if you want, my switch off moment. But not all sports. So 2 of my favorite sports are swimming and skiing. When I swim, I should think a lot about markets and work, because there's a cadence to swimming that almost makes you reflect on things. And generally I come out of my swim with some brilliant ideas, and I might then forget them a few minutes later because I'm doing other things, but they always it just gives me this great feeling that I got to that eureka moment. And by the way, what was it? Okay, let me go swimming again, I'll find it. But the other sport that I love is skiing, and that really switches me off because you need to figure out where you're going, and you need to pay attention.
A lot of focus.
Yeah. Should we move on to our next snack, which I think is one of your favourites, which is...
So this is...
This is where my discipline just goes out.
So I think you need to... You need
definitely
to give us
introduce
the pitch
this
on
one.
because I've never heard of this one. So what is it called?
So when you guys asked me about my favorite snacks and my favorite drinks, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be the most boring person on Dream Machine, because I don't snack a lot, but I really like dark chocolate, and I take it with me everywhere I go. So actually, I sent you some photos of me as I was traveling to Australia. I was in front of the Sydney Opera House. I was there for work with my little chocolate with me. I was in South Africa, and I corrupted all my South African colleagues to my dark chocolate.
The role as a brand ambassador,
and
really.
I just love it when it's really very dark and not too sweet. And I always have my little bit of chocolate after lunch with your espresso macchiato.
And this is your favorite brand?
It is. I have other brands that I like. This is quite easy to put in the bag.
So it's called Who?
Who?
Right, I'm going.
Well, you have that one, and Laura and I'll share this one.
So this is 70% cocoa.
Yes.
Is that the kind of minimum level that you...
Yes. I can go easily to 85, no problem. 100 is a little bit bitter.
Yeah.
But
85 is that's quite bitter. I just dropped that.
You just dropped
It wasn't
chocolate.
that bad, Alex.
That's all right.
That's one way to not have to eat it. I think you can probably stretch to a different piece.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you guys are ever
That's actually it's dairy free, isn't it?
low on chocolate and need some, just come to my desk.
I like this concept of eating something and not really thinking too much about it nutritionally. If it makes you happy, that is actually good for you. I think that's a real good takeaway.
Yes.
I'm going to try that one at home.
Yeah.
My grandmother, she was a genius.
That's where it comes from. And doesn't feel like there's nostalgia running through these snacks. They're very much of the day. They're sort of present things that others maybe have looked at it as a sort of an opportunity to think about.
Yeah, these are not things that I used to eat when I was younger, or, we didn't have oat milk at the time and veggie crisps. I love vegetables. I eat a lot of vegetables. So possibly that's one of the reasons why if I have to snack on something, we'll have vegetables at the basis of it. And chocolate, maybe did have a lot of dark chocolate when I was a child. So maybe this is my little bit of nostalgia.
I like that. That's good.
And you mentioned a bit about diversity, generally thinking about and obviously sort of being a woman in the industry is something that you. How would you reflect on how that may have changed over time during your career?
Well, first,
or has it not been something you've really thought about?
So actually, I started thinking about it only later in my career. And I've thought about this many times, and I've spoken about this with some of my peers. When I started, there were really hardly any women in the industry, particularly where I was coming from. I was born and raised in Italy, so I did some work at university. Then I worked in Japan. So it probably wasn't until I went to the States where I started seeing senior women around me who had jobs similar to me. But then when I moved from the sell side to hedge funds, then again, there were no women even in the States at that time. And I think I didn't have really an understanding about, why weren't there any women around me? Like, was there something that I could do for that to change? I think I was young. I was just thinking about, my career, and I wasn't really thinking about diversity at the time per se. And then at some point when I started managing teams, and I started seeing how difficult it was for any person who was different. It wasn't only women. It was also some of my colleagues from different cultural backgrounds who just were not alpha personalities, didn't go to the right schools. Maybe they had a different social background. And that was a moment of, it really opened my mind, and I realized that I had to do something to help those who were just as different as I was, maybe in different ways, to get on the same, at the same level as everyone else. And that probably happened maybe 15 years ago, right. A little bit longer than that. And it was great. It was a moment when something changed in my mind. And, it's important that you work with all of your colleagues, and it doesn't matter how they look, who they are, what their background is. But sometimes it's also important for you to turn to someone who is very similar to you and just have a bit of a brainstorming, just compare ideas and say, I felt that in that way. Did you think the same? Are we perhaps not seeing something different here? I love that. Our industry has become so much more diverse and so much more open to diversity.
And that's what you're talking about, sort of the peer group that's within the business and outside of the business, right?
Yes.
That you can kind of talk to and reflect on things. Yeah, interesting.
But it's also, I'm actually convinced that we are all different in our own ways. Is that there was a time when we were all convinced that we shouldn't show those differences, and we should try to conform ourselves to the wider group. And what I see now is that those differences, that diversity, even in people who do not look as diverse, are coming out much more. And that's real power, particularly for the investment process, because then there is real discussion, then there is real exchange of opinions. Then, you can really see things from so many different facets. And by the way, at a time when markets are confusing, generational, always seek a dissent. Always find those in your teams who think differently. Try to find as many different points of view as you can, because that will give you the best vantage point to then deal with what you have in front in the market.
So how do you, so in that, creating dissent, and then there's creating it and then managing it, right? So how do you create something that so it feels like a healthy debate and proper conversation without it feeling, the conflict and all that?
There is no room for lack of respect.
Right.
You have to respect the fact that someone else has a different opinion from yours. You're not there to make your opinions win. You're there to compare your opinions with someone else. So as long as you come into the conversation with that mindset, then you can really add, you can really enrich the final outcome.
I think that all that remains, Fabiana, is to thank you for your excellent selections and for me to replay back your dream machine. So as your dream drink, we have an oat milk latte, ideally in a ceramic cup. The one made from home or a barista-made one, would you prefer?
Oh, that is perfect. Barista-made.
Barista-made, lovely,
perfect.
Excellent.
Strong coffee.
And with strong coffee. Any particular provenance of the coffee that you...
No,
you don't
very...
mind. Excellent, that's good. Then moving on to your crisps, it's the Tyrrell's veggie crisps, and then dark chocolate, minimum of 70%. Sounds like you need it. It's almost medicinal having to have it nearby at all times. And this brand Hue was very nice as well.
Yeah, really
so excellent choices. A good way to a good life in investing and in health as well. So. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Alex and Laura.
Thank you.
This was great.